Have you ever built your personal paradise in the backyard only to wake up one morning and find it cordoned off like a federal crime scene by people you never voted for? What if the ringleader was a perfectly coiffed HOA president preaching neighborly values while stealing your peace with a smile? And what if fighting back meant pulling a dusty 1893 law out of history that turned their cookie-cutter dream into an absolute circus of absurdity? My name's Jack Harlan. And for 27 years, I've lived in the forgotten little pocket called Heritage Hollow, just 6 houses on a dead-end dirt road where the asphalt gives up and the pines take over. No covenants, no dues, no beige stucco nightmare. Just me, a widowed retired mechanic who poured every spare dime and every lonely Saturday into the crown jewel out back. A custom kidney-shaped pool with a natural rock waterfall I welded myself and a heater that lets me float into October like some kind of therapy I never had to pay a shrink for. It was my sanctuary after losing my wife, sunrise laps, cold beer on the edge, 0 rules except don't drown. Life was quiet, simple, mine, until the cornfields behind my tree line got sold to developers who slapped up Harmony Heights overnight. Suddenly, my peaceful horizon became a sea of identical McMansions with manicured lawns and matching mailboxes that screamed, "We all earned the same 6 figures, and we're terrified of being different." I figured live and let live. Thick pines, thick skin. They could have their HOA dictatorship. I'd keep my freedom. Then came Karen Whitaker. She rolled up one sticky June afternoon in a silver Lexus parked square on my hydrangeas like they were public parking. Cream pantsuit, pearls that probably cost more than my truck. Clipboard clutched like it was the 10 Commandments. Out stepped her sidekick, some pasty assistant with a tablet and 0 personality. I was skimming leaves in my trunks when I heard the gravel crunch. "Excuse me," I called, wiping my hands. "You're on my flowers." Karen flashed a smile so wide it could have sold real estate to a ghost. "Jack Harlan, right? I'm Karen Whitaker, president of the Harmony Heights HOA. We're doing our quarterly perimeter review. From our upper terraces, we noticed your pool situation is quite visible. That waterfall, not exactly Mediterranean modern. And that teal liner? Aggressive. We're going to need you to submit plans to tone it down. For property values." Of course. I blinked. "Lady, I don't belong to your HOA. My deed stops at those pines. You're trespassing." She laughed, that high, tinkling sound that rich people use when they're about to ruin your day. "Oh, Jack, don't be difficult. Section 14 of our charter clearly states any visually impacting adjacent property falls under our zone of influence. Standard practice. Protect the community. Submit the plans, or we'll have to explore enforcement options." I pointed at the road. "Get off my land. Now, or I call the sheriff." Her smile vanished like it had never existed. "We'll be in touch." "Jack, noncompliance is expensive." She said it sweet, like she was offering cookies. But her eyes were pure shark. I laughed it off with my buddy Sully that night over beers. Sully's the retired welder 2 doors down, man of few words. Mostly grunts. Zone of influence? Sounds like she thinks she's the damn government. He crushed a can. Ignore her. She can't touch us. 2 days later, the certified letter arrived, thick as a phone book. Violations listed like I'd committed war crimes. Pool visible. Deck unpainted. Truck and driveway. Retroactive fines for $1,800. And a notice claiming the developer had filed some visual easement 5 years ago. I spent 4 hours at the county clerk's office buried in microfiche. Found the document. It was a rejected proposal. The city council laughed it out of the room because our road was historically distinct. Karen was bluffing, using ghost paper to bully me because my teal pool offended her beige empire. I fired back a polite letter through my nephew the paralegal, citing the rejection minutes. Felt like victory. Thought she'd slink away. I was wrong. Dead wrong. 2 weeks later, the heat was brutal, and I was floating in my pool when the rumble of heavy equipment woke me at dawn. I looked out the window, and my stomach dropped. A bobcat loader, crew in neon vests, tearing down my old wooden fence and digging holes for shiny black chain link. They were sealing off my entire backyard like I was a convicted felon. I ran out barefoot, bathrobe flapping. What the hell do you think you're doing? Karen stood on the Harmony Heights side, Starbucks in one hand, clipboard in the other, smiling like a Sunday school teacher. Good morning, Jack. Since you refused to comply with our safety standards, the board voted to install a compliant perimeter fence under the attractive nuisance doctrine. We're securing the pool to protect neighborhood children. Don't worry, we'll bill you. You're stealing my land. I yelled, face burning. She tilted her head. All fake concern. It's civil asset mitigation. Jack, interfering with contracted workers would be harassment. I'd hate to involve the police. I did call them. Young deputy showed up, looked at Karen's stack of stamped papers, then at my deed, and shrugged. Sir, she's got a temporary emergency access order from a judge for safety. Civil matter. Take it up in court. He left me standing there watching them padlock my own gate and hand Karen a spare key. By noon it was done. My sanctuary behind bars. Karen smirked as she tucked the key in her purse. You can petition the board for supervised access once you pay the fines. Have a blessed day. That night I sat in my dark kitchen staring at the fence cutting my yard in half. Violated. Small. Sully came over. Poured whiskey without a word. You letting her win. Jack, can't afford lawyers, I muttered. She's got the whole HOA treasury. Sully stared out the window at the silhouette. My granddad always said if you can't beat their law, find an older one. This road used to be part of the original Miller Orchard, 1893 Pioneer Agricultural Freehold Charter. Never repealed. Gives us autonomous rights over aesthetics. Livestock. Boundaries. Encroaching developments gotta pay tithe or submit to the hollow elders. I looked at him. You serious? Dead serious. They want to play jurisdiction games? Let's show 'em real jurisdiction. The next morning, I wasn't a grieving mechanic anymore. I was a historian on the warpath. Back to the archives. Deeper this time. There it was, the 1893 Charter. Handwritten. Never formally dissolved because some clerk in 1945 screwed up the paperwork. It declared Heritage Hollow sovereign on all matters of rustic harmony, livestock, and visual encroachments. Any new development had to either pay tribute in kind or conform to pioneer standards. Archaic? Absolutely. Legally binding? Technically, yes, until a judge said otherwise. I gathered the 6 of us in my living room. We reactivated the Heritage Hollow Town Council. I got voted mayor. Sully. Sheriff. Mrs. Higgins the cat lady. Treasurer. We drafted our own documents. No lawyers. Just creativity and spite. Step 1. Beautification mandate. I mailed Karen a formal letter referencing the charter. Harmony Heights was in violation of the Pioneer Rustic Harmony Act. Every house visible from our road, basically her entire premium section, had to be covered in period-appropriate barnwood siding within 30 days. Or pay a daily tithe of 3 dozen fresh eggs per house. Otherwise, we'd enforce livestock rights. She stormed over the next day, waving the letter like it was radioactive, face already turning the color of a bad sunburn. Is this some kind of joke? Eggs. Barnwood. You've lost your mind. I leaned against my doorframe. Calm as Sunday. It's the law. Karen, you claim jurisdiction over my pool because it's visible. I'm claiming jurisdiction over your beige monstrosities because they offend historical preservation. Oh, and under the charter you're currently trespassing on common grazing land. Might want to move that Lexus before Sheriff Sully tows it for the goats we're legally allowed to keep. She turned purple. I will sue you into the Stone Age. Go ahead, I said, while the courts sort it. We're enacting the Auditory Heritage Protocol. That was step 2. Sully fired up his welder and built massive industrial wind chimes out of scrap steel pipe, things that clanged like a freight train in a hurricane every time the breeze hit. We hung them right along the line. Then we started the Heritage Hollow Dawn Rooster Choir, legal livestock under the charter. 6 roosters crowing at 5 a.m. Sharp. Every single morning. Right when Harmony Heights was trying to sip their overpriced lattes in peace. Standard noise ordinances didn't apply to cultural agricultural practices. The war lasted 3 brutal weeks. Karen's lawyers sent cease and desist letters thicker than my pool liner, but they kept getting stuck trying to argue against a handwritten 1893 document signed by actual pioneers. Meanwhile, her residents started cracking. They didn't care about the legal war. They cared about roosters waking their toddlers and staring at giant neon scarecrows we'd erected facing their patios. Scarecrows dressed in overalls holding signs that read, "Beige is the real eyesore." Emails started trickling in, not hate mail, but desperate pleas. "We hate the stucco too. We just want to sleep." One guy wrote, "Karen won't listen. She's spending our dues on lawyers instead of fixing the community pool that actually leaks." That was when I saw the crack in her armor. She wasn't leading loyal subjects. She was ruling hostages who were one bad night's sleep away from mutiny. I decided it was time for the kill shot. We printed flyers, hundreds, detailing every dollar Karen had drained from the HOA reserve to fight 6 old-timers and a ghost charter while the actual common areas fell apart. I included photos of the illegal fence on my land and the invoices. Title across the top in big bold letters. "Where are your dues really going?" Hint, not to fixing anything. Sully and I did a midnight mailbox run, taping one to every door in Harmony Heights. The next evening was the monthly HOA meeting. Normally, it was 10 people yawning while Karen dictated mulch color. Tonight, the community center parking lot was packed. I walked in wearing my Sunday best instead of the bathrobe I'd been living in. Sully beside me in a cowboy hat and a tin star that read sheriff. Karen was at the podium looking like she'd aged 10 years. Hair slightly out of place for the first time ever. When she spotted me, her fingers shook. "You have no right to be here." "Private meeting." I boomed loud enough for the back row. "Actually, according to your own bylaws," which I read cover to cover, "non-members can address the board if they're parties to an active dispute." And honey, we've got a dispute. The room murmured. A dad in the front row stood up, the same guy who'd emailed me. "Let him speak." "Karen, we want to know why we're paying lawyers to fight a man who just wants to swim in his own damn pool." Karen banged her gavel. "Order. I will have security remove you." "I'd love to see you try," I said. Walking forward, I turned to the crowd, tired parents, stressed commuters, people who just wanted a home, not a dictatorship. "Folks, I don't hate you. I don't even hate your houses, though the beige is a crime against nature. I'm just a guy who built a pool to remember his wife and relax after 30 years turning wrenches. Your president decided that offended her perfect view. She trespassed. She fenced my land. She spent your money doing it. I'm willing to drop the egg tithe and silence the roosters today. All I want is my yard back. But Karen here would rather burn your dues than admit she's wrong." Silence. Then a woman in the back stood. "I move for a vote of no confidence in the president." "Seconded," the front row dad shouted. Karen's face went ghost white. "You can't. This community is mine. I built it." "All in favor?" the treasurer asked, ignoring her completely. Every single hand shot up. Even the pasty assistant from day one raised his sheepishly. The aftermath was swift and delicious. The new board, led by that front row dad, decent guy named Dave, signed a formal agreement recognizing Heritage Hollow's permanent independence. They sent a crew the very next day to rip down the chain link. Offered to pay for my torn-up lawn. I told them keep the cash and plant real trees instead of those sad little sticks. Karen didn't go quietly. She sued the HOA for wrongful termination, which only uncovered that she'd been pocketing landscaping kickbacks for years. Last I heard, she'd moved 2 towns over and was terrorizing a condo board in a retirement village. Poetic. The sweetest moment came a week later. Scorching Saturday. I was floating on a raft, cold drink in hand, when I heard voices at the property line. Sully, Dave, and a few Harmony Heights neighbors stood there holding a cooler, looking awkward. "Hey, Jack," Dave said. "It's 95 degrees out here. Since we respected the Rustic Harmony Act and tore down the fence, any chance the treaty includes swimming rights?" I looked at my empty, quiet pool. I grinned. "Only if you brought beer and left the rule book at the door." That afternoon, my backyard wasn't a battlefield anymore. It was a neighborhood, music, burgers, laughter. The line between us didn't feel like a prison wall, just grass where friends met. But here's the thing that still keeps me up at night. A couple months later, Dave stopped by. Good guy, but he had a clipboard. "Hey, Jack, since we're all getting along, The board was wondering if you'd consider a voluntary contribution for road paving. Just neighborly. Of course. I saw that same bureaucratic glint Karen used to have. It hit me. Maybe it wasn't just her. Maybe it's the clipboard itself. Give any group a little authority over their neighbors, and suddenly they're expanding the kingdom. I told him to get off my porch before I reactivated the rooster choir. He laughed, but he didn't put the clipboard away right away. So tell me in the comments, did I win? Or did I just trade one tyrant for a slower, friendlier one? And if you discovered an ancient law that let you stick it to your HOA Karen with chickens and chaos, would you use it? I think we all know the answer. Sometimes the oldest rules deliver the sweetest revenge, but keep one eye on the clipboard. Folks, power's always hungry.